Hello and welcome to the Steve Kalish Show. If this is your first time joining us, then you're very, very welcome here. What we tend to do is sometimes we talk to local people who are doing interesting things, try and highlight the cool stuff happening in Yeovil. Every now and then we'll just sit around a table, me and my co-hosts Kevin and George, and just talk nonsense for a little while. Sometimes we talk to people from all over the world who have some of the most extraordinary stories ever put to a microphone. So it's a real eclectic mix, and I hope if you enjoyed today's episode that you consider sticking around and joining us, because we don't just want to be Yeovil's podcast, we want to be Yeovil's podcast but also the UK's number one podcast. It's a big dream, it's a big ridiculous ambition, but that is where we want to go. In today's episode we talked to Councillor Adam Dance, and I really enjoyed it. Adam was kind enough to host us in the sort of local Lib Dem offices, and he was sort of very warm, very friendly, and I really enjoyed our little chat. Part of the reason I do this podcast is so I can learn. I want to go from a stupid man to a not so stupid man, and the way I'm going to do that is by educating myself, by talking to people who have much more knowledge about certain topics than I. And I learned a lot from Adam about especially local politics. I thought he had a lot of interesting things to say. So I hope that you enjoy the upcoming episode. Let me know what you think in the comments or on Facebook. You can find us on Facebook at Calis Media, Calis Media. But for the most part, if you're interested in me and the stuff that we've got going on here, because as well as this podcast, I also am the director of Calis Media. We do a lot of projects locally. We do the Pride of Yeovil Awards. We do free toys for kids at Christmas. If you want to find out more about that sort of stuff, then you can go to calismedia.com, calismedia.com, and you can find everything we do there. So I hope you can sit back and relax, or if you're on the way to work or on a jog or something, then I hope you're not too cold. I hope you're happy. Then stick your headphones in and listen to a really, really good episode with local councillor Adam Dance.
Hiya, you're right. Hi, everyone.
Let's start with where were you born? Where did you come from?
So I was born in South Petherton, and I still live there today. So I'm a true South Somerset resident.
Yeah, proper local boy.
And what about yourself?
Oh, so yeah, I'm Yeovil, born and bred, and I love it here. I spent a lot of years going away and travelling and backpacking and doing all sorts of debauched things all over the planet, and then finally settled back here in Yeovil, where I'm so happy and comfortable.
Back at your roots.
Yeah, and that's it, because this is where my friends and family are. My company is a company that wants to sort of lift Yeovil up a little bit and help out. And so what about you then? Well, because what's your motivation is to obviously how you told us just off air what your motivation was, and I thought it was brilliant. So maybe we should start there as well. Why did you get into politics in the first place? Tell people that story.
So for me, the reason I got into politics is a bit different than the normal politician. So I was just a normal boy at school. I had dyslexia and ADHD, and I really struggled at school. And I found time quite hard at times. And I got off the school bus once, and I was beaten up. And for me, I didn't want to go home to my dad, who was a lot older than my mum, and say, look, Dad, I've been beaten up, because I didn't want to make him feel embarrassed that I didn't defend myself. But that wasn't who I was. Sure. So I'd go to the local youth centre, who supported me. Now, I really got involved in politics then, because I came into the youth centre a couple of days later, and my youth worker was in tears. I said, what's wrong, Lou? And she said, oh, we've been cut. So the youth division in Somerset was run by Somerset County Council at the time, which was under the Conservative administration. And they did a 100% cut to youth services in Somerset. Now, we all know that the youth centre attracts people who actually may need support. Now, if you get rid of that prevention service, kids go down later in life without having that support, so they might end up needing more support later on. So I started a campaign. There was also a youth centre in Yeovil called Morley House. Oh, yeah. And there was a disabled youth group there, which I volunteered to support. And I had to tell the children there, you can't come back next week. And that really affected me, because I'd seen the way this place was a hub for them, a place they could get support, a place they could feel real and normal and not be discriminated by anyone. So I started a campaign when I was 17, 18 to try and get the youth centre saved in the area. And we managed to get Morley House saved for a further year, but unfortunately it was then cut a year later. And I got involved in politics because Paddy Ashdown and David Laws, who were the MPs beforehand, and David Laws at the time, contacted me after seeing me on ITV News and said, look, we've seen your campaign, can we help you at all? And for me, that was a big thing. And I said to Mum, tell me more about politics. What's Lib Dem? What's Conservative? What's Labour? Because I was just a boy, really naive. So I spent hours and hours and hours, and for someone who's dyslexic, it was quite hard reading up on all the political parties, all the policies, because I thought, I'm not jumping into one group if I don't know enough about them. And for me, the Lib Dems, the key value with the Lib Dems is community. And for me, my community matters. So I joined the Lib Dems, and then that's when my story started, really. I was elected to the parish council in South Peverton. I became chair at the age of 19, and I raised the council tax locally, which some people you may have thought were against, but everyone was supportive, to get a youth club back in my hometown village.
Oh, I see.
And we now have a fully funded youth club in South Peverton, which is funded by the community, not the council, because it was cut. And that's really what got me motivated to try and support people.
I wonder if you can walk us through just some of just for people who are interested in politics and getting into politics, what is it that we don't see? Like, how do you get from doing the amazing campaign that you got into, then you jumped into politics and learned all about it, but how do you actually then cross that bridge? How do you get into politics then? What do you do?
Yeah, so it's an interesting one, because as I said earlier on, how I got involved was not the normal way, really, but people really don't see what happens behind the scenes. So for me, I was on the parish council, then became chair, and at the time we had 2 district councillors and a county councillor. And I thought, every month, well, there's this chap, he's our district councillor, but he's not here. He's not coming to give a report. And I thought, So I contacted the Lib Dems, because I joined the party at that point, but I was just a member. I didn't do anything other than just a member. So I get an email every so often with what's going on. And I said, my district councillor is not here. And they said, well, they're not a member of our party. It's actually a Conservative. And I said, well, they're being paid to do this role. Why aren't they coming to our meeting and giving me the support we need? And that's when it really hit off for me. So I said, I'm going to stand, because actually I want to get on South Somerset District Council to try and make a difference, because I can see what's not happening here in South Peverton. For example, the public toilets were closing. And it was little things like that. So I said, how do I get involved, and how do I get to become a candidate? And they said, well, you're a member first. Now, what you have to do is go through approval process to stand for us for council. So you need to have an interview, and we need to check to see if what you believe in fits in with the policies and fits in with the party.
That makes sense, right? I see.
But also we need to do a check of social media, check of other things, just to make sure that there's nothing hidden which may damage you or damage the party.
Right.
So that's the side of it people don't see. So then I was approved, and what that then meant is I could stand anywhere in South Somerset for the party. But then what happens is you open up selections for different areas. And because I was South Peverton, I wanted South Peverton. I thought, well, this is my town. This is my hometown. A bit like you in Yeovil, I suppose, where you've come back to your grassroots. Mm-hmm. I want to support my town. So I put myself forward for South Peverton, and then it was down to the members of that area to say, right, we're going to have Adam, or we're going to have the other people. And I was selected. So then that's when the hard work started, because you don't just win an election by having your name on the ballot like people think. You've got to get your name across to people, leaflets through the door, and you can't do that on your own. So this was just a district council area. So my area was about 4,000 houses, which doesn't sound much if you live in Yeovil. But if you live in a village, you've got big long drives. You've got houses, farms in the middle of nowhere. And it's not just one village; it's 4 or 5.
Right. So suddenly you're doing some cardio to get get the work done.
Exactly. I mean, I always say, good way for me to lose weight is standing in an election. Forget the gym. Just get out on the doorstep. That's the fun part.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. Got my leaflets out, but you can't do it on your own. You need to build an army of volunteers. And that's what I started doing. Talking to people, talking to my friends, my families, people in the community who've supported me and said, look, can you deliver that road? Can you deliver that street? Do you want to come out canvassing with me? And that's how you sort of build it up. But also, standing in a local election in some ways is different than a national election because there's always budgets to make it fair for all the other political parties and independents. So if you ever wanted to stand and you didn't want to join a party, you could. But there is strict limits. So you've got to have a budget which you can only spend in the short campaign of a certain amount.
Right.
So you can't just bombard people with lots and lots of literature. So that's the other thing you've got to be aware of. You've got to have an agent who checks everything you're doing. You've got to have an imprint on a leaflet. So every leaflet, you've got one over there of mine, but every leaflet you'll see on the bottom, that there's an imprint, where it's been printed, who it's been published by, and on behalf of who. Also, if you're canvassing now, you've got to have a data protection on the bottom of the leaflet to be able to record the data.
Oh, I see.
And this is the parts that people don't see. There's a lot of work behind the scenes to make sure that you can run correctly.
Blimey.
So it's quite mind-boggling, especially when you're a 21-year-old at the time when I first stood for a political position.
Yeah.
It was sort of, wow, this is real stuff.
Yeah.
And then contacting the press, trying to get onto a story, a campaign, talking to the media. And we all know that the media can be your best friend or your worst enemy. Mm-hmm. So it's trying to make sure that you get it just right.
Yeah.
So that, for me, that's the bits people don't see. But if you move on to the national level, there's a lot more behind it than just a local level. So running, as you know, I'm running to be the next MP for Yeovil. And my reasons for that, I believe we need an MP who cares about the constituency and the people it represents, but knows the area. And that's why I'm going for it. But let's get back to your question. So the bits you don't see behind. So I have to fundraise to run my campaign. So it's not down to national parties to pump every seat. It's down to you to get the funding locally. Right. Now, to send my magazine out, for example, to all the doors in the constituency, you know when you get them free papers through the door from Mole Valley Farmers, the Christmas tree factory at this time of year, all them things, you think, oh, that's coming in the post, but actually it's quite expensive. So that's £7,000 roughly to deliver that to this area. Yeah. And that's the bit of politics people don't see, that I need to fundraise to raise that money. Mm-hmm. And a lot of my time is spent fundraising.
I was thinking about how to approach the interview building up to it, because I don't think I've ever interviewed anyone in this sort of political sphere, and I was like, well, I won't do this sort of Jeremy Paxman thing, so I don't know anything about politics. So I thought,
Not yet.
No, well, after this, I know so much more now. So I think what we do is I like the sort of easy questions, because I think whether or not people gravitate towards you depends, I suppose, on your personality, but also on the things that you hope to achieve. So what is that? What now, the position you're in now, from here onwards, what is it that you want to achieve and do in your time?
I want to be the MP for Yeovil, because the people of Yeovil deserve someone representing them who's going to work hard for the constituency. I love this place. I'm born here. I live here. My family live here. My friends are here. We see so much negativity about the town on social media. I sometimes call it bookache. But at the end of the day, it's our home. And surely we should be striving to make it the best place we can. Yeah. So for me, I want to be the MP for Yeovil to shout for us. Because, for example, I'm a hospital governor. We were one of the only hospitals not to get any of the extra government funding a few months ago. Now, we should be shouting about that. We need the support here. We need to lower business rates in the town, for example. When I'm out door to door, people say about Yeovil Refresh and the town, and they say, we need to get more shops. The council run business rates. They don't realise the government set business rates. The council collect them. They don't set them.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So I would push in government that business rates should be lowered and made fairer, For example, Amazon don't pay business rates. Someone selling stuff at their house doesn't pay business rates. We've got some wonderful little shops in town which struggle because the business rates are too high, and we need to make them fairer. So that's my one priority. My second priority is the NHS. So you said earlier on you had a child. I'm not sure at the moment if you've managed to get your child an NHS dentist.
No, so it's so difficult, and it's not like it's just. And with Leo, he was in and out of hospital for a long time with this real difficult, real bad tonsillitis and stuff.
Sorry to hear that.
Thank you, and that was difficult enough. And then, essentially, what you got to do, if I could talk to myself in the past, I would get him signed up for an NHS dentist about the minute after we conceived him. You know what I mean? Otherwise it's really difficult. So I'm worried. It's pain in the ass, that.
It is, and the problem with it is everyone's blaming the dentist, but it's not their fault. So the way it's set up, the dentists are paid for anyone who goes and sees them NHS. They're now paid so little. We've seen COVID and the pandemic, and at the end of the day, electricity bills have gone through the roof. Dentists just can't afford to see anyone privately anymore. So we need to make sure that we put more funding into the dentistry, especially children dentistry, because as you said, if you can't get your lad to see a dentist, what's his teeth going to be like in 5, 6, 7 years? So that's another priority, is the NHS, the dentists, but also GPs. We should have a right to see a GP within 7 days. I met a resident the other day, 6 weeks till she could get a GP appointment. And it's just not right anymore. The rich are getting richer, they can go private. Not everyone can do that. I see the dentist, but I can afford to go privately. But if I had a child, I couldn't afford to pay for them as well. So it's real hard times at the moment. And let's not forget the cost of living. I don't believe that some of the MPs in government have a clue what the cost of living's about. Someone said to me on the door the other day, well, of course, you're a politician. At the end of the day, you don't need to worry about hard times. I was on EMA when I was at school. When I was at college, sorry. I had free school meals at school. But I was embarrassed at times to use it because my card was different than everyone else's. And as I said earlier on, I was bullied. So if I wanted to go and show my card, people would know that I was on free school meals. Well, that shouldn't be the case. Everyone should be treated exactly the same. One of our policies is that free school meals should be for everyone at primary level, because at the end of the day, you can't learn if you have an empty belly. So for me, it's making sure we give our children the best start in life. So that's what I mean. We need to make sure we have someone representing us who understands what these issues are and suffered it. My mum, she's only having a new roof this month. She's waited 5 years till she could afford it. She had a bucket at the bottom of the bed collecting some water when the wind blew in a certain direction. So I'm not a normal politician. I'm someone who cares about the area and cares about the constituency. And a vote for me is a vote for Yeovil, bringing it back on the map and supporting our residents.
Councillor Adam Dance, it's been an honour to have you on the Steve Kayler Show. I really appreciate you, for one, watching me fumble around and set the technology up, and two, I appreciate you spending your time being here and talking about what it is you want to achieve and stuff. I think that you're a very interesting, very charismatic, very clever man, and I wish you all the best going forward. I think you're going to do great.
Thank you very much, and it's been lovely to meet you today as well. And feel free to come back and ask me any questions anytime.
Will do. Thank you very much. Maggie, take care of yourself.
You too. Thank you now.
Hiya, you're right. Hi everyone.